We'll be watching this alongside us, South Africa, in about an hour and 20 minutes or so. Let's take you then into the room where this really important, call it second leg of evidence, will be led. And this is inside the auditorium of the Brigitte Mabandla Justice College. And I'm not sure if Zoleka Qodashe is positioned inside or on the outside of that building, but certainly she will be part of our reporting team today, observing this testimony unfold. Zoleka.
That's right, Iman. In fact, we're just outside where the auditorium where Fannie Masemola, the National Police Commissioner, will be giving his evidence in chief before the Commission of Inquiry that's tasked with investigating these claims of criminal infiltration within the criminal justice system. Of course, the doors have not yet opened, but of course, when they do, we will be inside to give viewers live coverage of that testimony as it unfolds. But you'll remember, Iman, that there are key dates which we expect the National Commissioner to speak about when he gives his evidence in chief this morning. Among them is the 31st of December 2024. That's not a date that's now new to South Africans. We heard it last week when the top cop in KZN, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, gave his evidence in chief of how the directive that came from Senzo Mchunu, the now minister that's been placed on leave of absence, issued the directive for the disbandment of the political killings task team. That is a date that is significant, particularly because it's not the first time that Fannie Masemola would have mentioned such a date. He mentioned it in his court papers in the matter between himself as well as the deputy Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, in that court battle that took place just a few weeks ago before the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria. So we're expecting that date to be of significance, particularly because in his court papers, he mentioned how on that specific date, he had already taken leave when the directive came. And also we've heard testimony from the top cop in KZN about how this directive came in haste from the office of the minister. Another date that will be quite important is that of the 2nd of January 2025. That's when he alleged to have caught wind of the directive from the minister. Of course, it'll also be interesting how he relays the role that was played by Shadrack Sibiya in the political killings task team. You'll remember that he has previously also said that his powers are derived from Section 207, subsection 2 of the Constitution, which give him the powers to manage and control the South African Police Service. And now those allegations of political interference will be interesting, particularly in light of Shadrack Sibiya and how Fannie Masemola has alleged that he did not want a phased-out approach of the political killings task team. Of course, all this will be ventilated. It will also be interesting to hear how he relays or places the Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection in the disbandment of the political killings task team. Now, that is something that will be key in the hearings today. But last week, we also heard of the criminal justice system being infiltrated, particularly in light of magistrates, Iman. And I think this was an important point that wasn't touched on in great detail, given the fact that the top cop in KZN had previously mentioned that the bail conditions that were imposed on the Deputy National Police Commissioner for the head of crime intelligence, that's Dumisani Khumalo, were not those that were asked by the state, and instead were imposed so that they would hinder any kind of investigations that take place. And so we do know from the Criminal Procedures Act, Section 62, subsection B, gives the court any powers or discretion to impose additional bail conditions on an accused person. Of course, this will also be done on the application of the prosecutor in the matter. So it will be interesting to hear Fannie Masemola's take in that regard, given the fact that he also mentioned that Dumisani Khumalo was the person that was assisting in the phased out approach of the political killings task team, and whether there is an inference that can be drawn of a grand scheme of the capture of the criminal justice system, which is, as you know, Iman, the very nucleus of South Africa's constitutional democracy. Of course, those hearings kick off at 9:30 a.m. and we will be hearing from the police commissioner as he takes the hot seat, Iman.